what I do is I just smoothen it so that the denture itself is going to come out smoother. Right? Let's go on to the flasking now. You have your mold would have been Vaseline before. Desiree, I need your help here to start mixing plastic. Yes, is this the flask is different for the lower.
I'll stick this one. I stick it already. He's crazy like mad.
There you have it. So you have your cast here now, you have your denture on it, you have your mounted ring that you keep. Whose is this? Just screw that back onto there. And we have the cast here. You make sure that your cast fits in your flask. If it doesn't, then you need to trim it a little bit on the model trimmer. Yeah? Yeah? I'll start mixing the type 2 stone for me. Now when we knock this cast, by the time she's mixing that, when we knock this cast off, let me see the remount. We sometimes have what is called a laboratory remount, where this cast has to come back exactly in the position it was before. So for that reason, sometimes we will put index on the cast before we mount it on the articulator, yeah? So that it comes back exactly where it was taken off the cast, right? That's after the denture is processed. Right? Sometimes we come back to do a laboratory mount where we adjust the occlusions before we actually send it off to the kit.
The ideal is that the laboratory mount is done after processing.
To take out processing errors. Vertical height sense. Ajit, I remember I explained to you all if that flask is not pressed properly together, you could have vertical height increase. And that is why we do a laboratory mount, to remove some of that errors. So that when you get it on the clinic, you have a lot less to remove. This is the spring-loaded holder. Right? That is to take care of expansion and contraction during curing. Yeah, while it's going through the process and the 8-hour cycle.
The expansion will be very small.
Yeah. Should be fun.
Microscopic.
Alright, sometimes it helps to just pass some Vaseline on the cast itself too, so that it doesn't stick to the stone that you're flasking with.
My God,
Separating media again.
Sarcasm is so strong.
That's a flasking. Flasking procedure. Right?
Really now?
Every time I see you,
Yeah, you see this one?
my mind can run on this video.
Yeah, what you're doing here is the processing part. Placement of the acrylic. Right, what we're doing is the flasking part. Right? You have your 10 stages there. Right. So we have flasking it. Come in. Alright, so type 2 stone plaster Paris is placed here now in the mold. You all are seeing, right? Seeing that? Alright. And then the cast now is then placed. You all are watching here, please. And you press that cast down. See that? Right, so it sets into that position. And now what we're going to do is that because this is a mold where we're going to have another half of this mold, everything has to be at 45 degrees, yeah? Why? Anybody could answer me why quickly? Must be at a 45 degree. Everything has to flask at a 45 degree. You see what I'm doing there? I'm flasking at a 45 degree, and that is to remove all undercuts so that when the other half comes on, remember this has to open. So you must make everything at a 45 degree.
I haven't just
member of the cast is placed in position, the stone will lock in the undercut. So when you deflast or when you open the cast after boiling out the wax, you won't be able to take the molds apart. You need to be able to take the molds apart because from here it's going to go to be boiled, right? And the wax is going to be removed. But the teeth are going to lock into the upper member. Okay? And when the teeth lock into the upper member and you separate the casts, you're going to have a big space where the wax used to be. Into that you're going to place acrylic and you're going to recompress it and then take it to processing. The lower upper half of the flask and the lower half of the
I lost.
comes together and lock in tight.
The wax melt, you know, so the one just in the cast.
Separate from this.
Space in the cast, but the acrylic is in.
Yeah, this might
So I put that 45 degrees?
cast easier.
I don't know what I mean.
It's not each half that has a cover.
Anybody notice any color out?
Yes.
I don't read all this.
Yes, both
We getting all this on final exam? We getting tested on this?
So what do you put at the bottom half or the upper half of the flask?
We getting tested on all this for finals?
It doesn't matter.
We getting tested on all this for finals?
Three months
What
ago.
you see, you can test it for this in life. Nobody gonna go to pass and then test you again after this one.
Which undercuts?
For final.
The arm. Well, how do you undercut working again?
Alright, sure. So this is the lower flask here, right? The lower half of the flask here, right? And this is your, yeah, we're talking cover. This is the base. They have a base one on one, right? And you've just, you've filled, you fill the base with plaster, yeah?
Yeah.
And you put your cast into that, right? And on the cast, you have your denture sitting on top of your cast, not so? Right? You've just filled dental stone inside here, or plaster inside there at a 45-degree angle, right? The upper half of this is like another tree, has to come and sit on top of that. And this stone needs to be filled with stone. Okay? If here, I allow this to be poured and I create an undercut like that, here, this undercut area here, right? And I create an undercut here. When this set of stone flows down, it's going to lock in those undercuts. And when the time comes for me to separate the two, I won't be able to because the stone will be locked into position. So what you need to do is ensure that when you're pouring and you're placing the plaster inside, this is placed at a 45-degree angle. So that when the cup flows down and comes into position, yes, they meet fully and they meet flush and it's able to seal, but when you're ready to separate it, it will separate. You understand now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Also have a little heatless for it to separate.
Over everything in the lower section because you don't even want the stone bond into your denture. Right?
Oh, that's what gets this one? How you doing?
My sister, yeah.
So there will be certain undercuts where the teeth and the embrasures are. Remember? Let's just look at this one. Look at this, right? We've gotten this lower portion set up, right? So that's your denture sitting on top of your cast. Everybody with me there. And your cast sitting in the lower thing, just as Paul has it and poured up and all that, right? What we're going to be doing is when he flasks the entire thing and puts the upper member into position, he's going to boil that. Okay? This is what you have. Let's just look at the anterior region. You have a tooth here. There's another tooth. That's a tooth. But anyway, you've got teeth there. Alright, that's your lateral. Okay? And you have teeth this right around. And in between the teeth and what the teeth is sitting on, there's wax. Right? You guys okay with me so far?
Yeah.
So we got wax all in. That wax represents what? On the denture. And below the wax you have the denture piece itself. The temporary base that you guys So you came here with temporary base and you're on a wax block. You took your derivation and now we followed all bits on the wax block or melted all bits and stuck the teeth into those locations. So we have teeth, we have wax, we have a temporary base. You guys understand that so far? Right? Teeth, wax, temporary base. When he boils this, what do you think is going to happen?
Wax will melt out.
The wax will melt. Right? The wax will melt and go out of the area. What's going to happen to the teeth? If the wax melts,
Fall out.
it will fall all over the place. If you don't do this process properly. You see what Paul just did is he took a little device and he went around the margins where all the teeth are. Right? He took a little hammer or a lenton or whatever it is and he went around the margins where the teeth are. So the teeth are still in the wax, but there's a little margin that's been removed. What is present below that margin now when he's removed that little margin of wax? What do you think is exposed? Is the tooth that shape straight up?
No. Slant.
No, the tooth has, if we look from the labial aspect, the tooth has a shape like that. Having removed the wax from here, what is left here? An undercut. That's right. So undercuts are present around the teeth, but not around the pole. When I put the upper member into position, and I tighten it down well, and make sure that only the stone flows into position, we boil it and the wax is lost, and I separate it, where will the teeth end up?
On the maxillary side.
On the upper portion. The teeth are going to separate away from this entire temporary base and all this kind of thing. The teeth are going to retain in exactly the position that you put them in because of the stone locking into position around these teeth here. So the teeth now separate away and come out on the upper if you've done it correctly, right? And now there's no more wax. The heat is so much that the wax is totally lost. It's called the lost wax technique. The wax is lost. There's a space there where the wax was supposed to be because the wax is boiled out. So now you have a space here, right? And what happens is these teeth go away with the upper portion. There's a space where the wax was, and there's your temporary base remaining. Right? You don't need a temporary base anymore. You pick it up and you throw it away. No, well, you can keep it for later use on another patient. Wrong, you can't use it on another patient. Come to mind. So you get rid of the temporary base, but now you need to have something permanent for the denture. So you mix your permanent acrylic and you put it down into position in the lower portion of the cast now. And you replace everything and you compress. And the excess acrylic is going to flow all around these teeth because they're rigidly held in position in the upper portion. And the excess acrylic is just going to go out on the sides. Right? You know, the technicians will know how much they're mixing so they don't end up with too much excess. Because you end up with too much excess and you're going to have a problem. Right? And they compress everything together, lock the cast firmly into position, and then they send it back into the boiling process again in terms of processing under heat and pressure this time.